The Buffalo Soldiers stand as one of the most profound chapters in American history, representing both the resilience of African Americans and the complexity of the nation's pursuit of equality. For most of the 19th century, African Americans were not just struggling for their freedom, but also their place in society built upon their exclusion. The Buffalo Soldiers, a group of black soldiers who served primarily in the Western territories following the Civil War, symbolizes a significant moment in that struggle. Their legacy is one of honor, perseverance, and the willingness to fight for a country that had long denied their basic rights. Reflecting on the history of the Buffalo Soldiers is more than an academic exercise. It's a deeply personal reminder of the sacrifice made by those who came before us and its complexity of patriotism for African Americans. In the aftermath of the Civil War, the United States found itself in a crossroads. The Union had been preserved, but the question surrounding the rights and status of the former enslaved African Americans were far from settling. In this period of Reconstruction, the U.S. Army sought to reorganize itself, and the inclusion of black soldiers became an unavoidable reality. In 1866, Congress passed the Army Organization Act, which created 6 all-black regiments, 4 infantry, and 2 cavalry units. These soldiers would later be consolidated into the 9th and 10th Cavalry Regiments and the 24th and 25th Infantry Regiments. These were the Buffalo Soldiers. The origins of the name Buffalo Soldiers is somewhat murky, but it's commonly believed that the name was given to these troops by Native Americans who respected the troops' fierceness in battle. To Native Americans, the buffalo was a symbol of strength, resilience, determination, much like the black soldiers they encountered. It is both ironic and poignant that the black soldiers, so respected by a group that was just like them, subject to forced colonization and oppression. The Buffalo Soldiers thus found themselves caught in a complex relationship. While they were agents of U.S. expansion tasked to subdue Native American resistance, they were also part of a larger struggle for their own recognition and equality in a society that saw them as second-class citizens. Despite their invaluable contributions to the westward expansion, the Buffalo Soldiers served in an environment rife with racism. From the beginning, these men faced the dual burden fighting for a country that was actively disenfranchising them. They were given the most arduous assignments, building roads, guarding forts, and escorting settlers, often in some of the most remote, inhospitable parts of the American frontier. While their white counterparts could expect better pay, more lenient treatment, Buffalo Soldiers consistently given inferior equipment and fewer resources. The military leadership doubted their abilities, even as they depended on them to tame the West. Yet these men proved themselves time and time again, showing extraordinary skills and courage under fire. Perhaps one of the most telling aspects of their service is that despite the hostility they faced, both from within the military and from civilian population, they displayed an unwavering sense of duty. The Buffalo Soldiers fought in numerous Indian wars, often earning high praises for their professionalism. Their service was not limited to fighting Native American tribes. They also played a critical role in protecting settlers from bandits, outlaws, and Mexican raiders. Their contributions were so significant that over 20 Buffalo Soldiers received the Medal of Honor, one of the highest recognitions for military bravery. However, their contributions weren't confined to the American West. The Buffalo Soldiers also played a pivotal role in the Spanish-American War, with the 9th and 10th Cavalry Regiment fighting alongside Freddie Roosevelt's Rough Riders at the Battle of San Juan Hill. While Roosevelt and his predominantly white regiment were celebrated as the heroes of the battle, the contributions of the Buffalo Soldiers were often downplayed and outright ignored. In reality, it was the Buffalo Soldiers who helped secure the American victory by bravely charging uphill under heavy fire. This pattern where black soldiers fought valiantly only to be erased from the narrative would repeat itself throughout American military history. Key figures emerge from this chapter in history, such as Henry Ossian Phillips, the first African-American graduate of West Point. His journey through military was marred by racism and false accusations that ended his career, despite his distinction as a Buffalo Soldier. Another notable figure was Charles Young, the third black graduate of West Point, who would become the highest-ranking black officer in the U.S. Army until his forced retirement during World War I, largely due to racial discrimination. Both men symbolize the ambition, resilience, and the complex challenges faced by African-American soldiers in this era. One of the most profound contradictions of the Buffalo Soldiers' legacy is that they were often used to suppress other marginalized groups, particularly Native Americans, even as them themselves were victims of systemic racism. This duality raises uncomfortable questions about the role of African Americans in the expansion of American empire. On one hand, the Buffalo Soldiers were fighting for their survival, using military services as a means of proving their worth and securing their place in American society. On the other hand, they were participants in the system that sought to erase indigenous cultures and displace native populations. This irony was not lost on many black soldiers who saw parallels between their own struggles and of those of Native Americans they were sent to fight. The aftermath of their service was bittersweet, though they helped pave the way for future generations of African Americans in the military, from the soldiers of the world wars to the celebrated Tuskegee Airmen. Racism continued to block their full recognition and inclusion in American society. Even as they fought for their country, they faced systemic discrimination in both military and civilian life. Many were denied promotions and barred from certain public spaces. This disconnect between their undeniable contributions and their country's refusal to grant them equality highlights the painful reality that for many African Americans, patriotism has required an immense sacrifice without the promise of fair treatment. Their courage and dedication of the Buffalo Soldiers was not limited to the battlefield. In their face of constant prejudice, many Buffalo Soldiers became leaders and advocates for their own community. They often found themselves stationed in remote and hostile environments where the local white population viewed them as suspicion and outright hostility. These soldiers, however, used their time in the military to build skills and develop leadership qualities that will serve them later in civilian life. Many went on to become community leaders, educators, and even civil rights advocates, using the disciplines and tenacity they developed in the military to fight for equality in civilian life. The Buffalo Soldiers' experience is a stark reminder of the complexities of patriotism for African Americans. For them, service in the military was an act of defiance and hope. They fought not only to protect the nation, but to stake a claim in its future. At a time where African Americans were lynched with impunity in the South, denied the right to vote, and excluded from many public institutions, the Buffalo Soldiers believed that by serving their country, they could force it to live up to its ideals of liberty and justice for all. Their service was a declaration that they were every bit American as their white counterpart, even if the country refused to recognize it. But the story of the Buffalo Soldiers also highlights the limitations of that strategy. Despite their sacrifice and their accomplishments, the Buffalo Soldiers did not receive the recognition and equality they had hoped for. Racism remained entrenched in both military and civilian life. Even as they fought and died for their country, Buffalo Soldiers were often barred from public spaces, denied promotions, and subject to constant dehumanization. The nation they had fought so hard to defend remained deeply divided along racial lines. This reality forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that for African Americans, patriotism has often been a one-sided affair, requiring immense sacrifices without the guarantee of equal treatment in return. Yet the legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers endures. Their contribution paved the way for future generations of African Americans in the military, from the soldiers of World War I and World War II to the Tuskegee Airmen and beyond. Their story is a testament to the power of perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. It has also served as a reminder that African Americans have always been an integral part in the American story, even when their story has sought to marginalize and erase them. Their fight wasn't just on the battlefield, it was for recognition, quality, and a place in history. Their story is an important part of our shared legacy and is one that deserves to be told. Let me know in the comments of what you thought about the legacy of the Buffalo Soldiers. I would love to keep the conversation going. If you're into exploring the untold stories of Black soldiers and their contributions to our military history, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And I also like to thank those that are in the military. If you don't mind, share the story with another soldier.